So now the next thing we need to do is we need to start getting our skeleton placement put into position for where all these bones need to go. So before we do that, we need to make sure we do the most important thing, which is save out our scene. So I'm just going to hit Control S and try to make that muscle memory, because at any time my could crash or something could go wrong, but to have it saved out as an earlier file will definitely help. So let's go ahead and click on skeleton placement. And we want to build our rig with the chosen parameters that we enter for all our joints. So yes, or all the bones that we want, not joints. So it's going to go ahead and it's going to go give us a rig that's going to fit right on this character. Now it's going to be kind of hard to see what's going on at first, but if you zoom in, there's two different characters that are in this scene right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Space Bar, go ahead and maximize that window out for you so we get the most viewing space. So right now we have two characters in here. We have our character that we would be working on, or the Titan in my case, and we have a proxy geometry. Now proxy geometry is great for if you know you have a certain type of character that's going to be in the game, but the model is not complete. The modelers are still working on it. You can use this proxy geometry to be a stand-in for that character until the character model is done, or else different changes need to happen, or different looks have to be done to the model, or aesthetic reasons. So our proxy geometry, you can also change the size, such as you can go to the physique of it, which is this guy flexing his guns. So if you click on that, and within like the body, you can make the guy, have a big belly, or you can turn into a female. You can change out the different arm sizes, bigger, smaller, and also the leg. But I'm not gonna delve too much into physique because I'm not using a proxy geometry for this. I'm gonna go make these videos assuming we have a character model that's ready to go. So our proxy geometry, we don't need to see it right now since it's gonna be disruptive in our workflow. But real quick before I turn it off, you can notice that in the back we have our joint chain sticking out from the pelvis bone on out. So if I go ahead and disable that proxy geometry, you'll see that we have a whole bunch of yellow cylinders and boxes, and we have a whole bunch of translation widgets everywhere. Basically, these translation widgets, just try to look at it the same way you look at this world translation. This is the direction in which your arrows are the direction in which your joints are going to be placed. So for instance, these joints are going to be placed within the way they're going to be rotating. So the first thing we can do is let's go ahead and bring back all of our mesh pieces that we had. And if we go ahead and we turn on our transparency mode by hitting the X-ray button up here, we can go ahead and we can see all of our joints. And also really quickly, it's going to be really hard for us to go in and select any of these pieces because it won't let us, and we'll be selecting the geometry which we don't want. So what I can do is we can come over, we can turn everything onto a reference, and now we cannot select our mesh pieces whatsoever. But we can still select our skeleton, our joint placement tool. This is basically what this is. We can go ahead and we can select everything we want throughout this picker. This picker will let us go ahead and rotate, scale, and position all of our joint pieces. The nice thing is if we go ahead and if I go to, let me go ahead and zoom all these orthographic views out. If I go into the front view, turn on that transparency, the X-ray, and I want to go ahead and I already know I want to move this shoulder up. So if I select that shoulder and I rotate it, I'm like, well, I can't get this other side to go up as well at the same time, so you're doing double the work. No, you don't have to necessarily. You just come in and hit down the toggle symmetry mode. And what this will do is anytime you rotate one, you can rotate both and move them into position. Alright, real quick, I'm going to turn off my discrete rotation on my tool settings so I can actually get like a fluid motion of my rotations. So I'm going to go ahead and start placing all the joints where they need to be. I'm going to go ahead and start with the front view first. Sorry if I'm jumping around a bit here. And I want to go ahead and start with the pelvis since that's most prominent bone out of the whole system. So my pelvis is positioned pretty well. I do know that the upper legs need to move. So if I go back and I select that calf, or thigh, my bad, move it into position at least here. I can turn on my polygonal wireframe too to see the flow of my geometry. Move that here. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this one out. So the knees into position. I'm going to rotate it back just a little bit so the foot can kind of line up. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the side view. Turn on that X-ray as well. I know I need to get it to go forward, so if I pick that thigh again, I need to push it up a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and do a knee. And this is generally how you go about this entire skeleton placement system. I know I need to move the knee up a little bit. Alright, so it looks like our lower leg is good. So we have our foot here. Well, I'm going to straighten out the foot from the side view. The way I can tell I'm wanting to straighten out is I'm just looking at these two lines. I'm trying to get them to be like as flat as possible. That right about there is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and straighten it out. So the foot is where it needs to go. If I go into perspective, you'll be able to see this a little bit better. Okay, transparency mode. So this is all of our foot controls, but the problem I have going on right now is if I turn on this geometry link, hopefully you'll be able to see this pretty well. Come on, mouse, work with me. You'll notice that I want this joint to be placed a little bit higher than it is. So let's say from the side view that the controls are set exactly where they need to be. Like this is actually a good position for all of our pieces, but I need this joint to be a little bit higher. What you can do is you can go into, instead of being on global mode, you can go in, which moves all your controls and your bones. We're just going to go ahead and offset mode, and we're going to move our bone only. We go ahead and select our ankle again, and I'm going to go ahead and move that up just a bit. And that looks about right. I'm going to let that go and go back to global. You notice that the joint shift, you notice that the joint moved, but your controls stayed where they still stayed the same. So I'm going to go ahead and that's the one really nice thing you can use with the offsetting tool. So I'm going to select all these toe controls and move them down. Whoa. So yeah, I want to move them globally instead of locally. So come down to my tool settings, go into world. Should be able to move them all down now at this point. Go back to perspective so I can see where they all are. Move that over. Move that over. And I'm going to move this one a little bit outside of the control box so it's not on top of that armor piece. Move that to the front of the toe. Alright, our toe controls are good here at this time. Okay, so from here I'm going to move up the chain. Control space to maximize. I'm going to turn off my transparency again. And let's check out the spine bone positionings from the side view. It's kind of hard to see, but I think our spine's in a pretty good position. I know that top spine can probably move a bit. Alright, I'm going to get that lower spine to move down just a little bit more too. Alright, cool. Move that spine a little bit forward. Let's go to that neck. Let's position it. Now, I can't really see the actual person under there because that helmet's in the way, so I'm gonna hide that helmet. I'll hide all those armor layers that we made. Okay, now we can see that guy. So I'll go ahead and zoom in, and I'm gonna move that neck right about here. So we have our head. I just like to put that around the middle. And we have the other. Now I know I have a couple other joints I gotta move into position, but I can't find them on the outliner. What we can do for that is you can go, if I can't find them in the picker, excuse me, you can go into your outliner tab, go down to joint mover, and in your head and in your custom chains or custom leaf joints, these are the joints that we put in ourselves. You can come in and go to helmet mover or any of those other leaves that we put in. So I'm going to move that helmet mover probably right about here because I know that's going to be associating the helmet where it needs to go. Actually, I'm going to put it in the middle of his head. It makes sense for me when I was thinking about it. We have our jaw. I'm going to place that right around the ear because I want that to rotate down in a way. So the eye, right and left, I hold down control and I can select both. I'm going to move those at least the center of the eye. I'm going to hit F to frame them up. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in there. We're running about 10 minutes in. And I'm going to look at the topology here of this eye, trying to get it within that center point. Alright, I'm going to zoom back out. Let me go to the front view. Go ahead and frame it out. You notice it's directly in the middle of the head. So what we need to do is we need to get... The only thing is the symmetry will not work on leaf joints. So we're going to have to manually move these into position. The best way I found to at least get these eye joints where they need to be is I'll go ahead and I'll... Selecting the eye right. This side's the right side of his body. So I'm going to hit W to do my transform mode. Hold down V to snap to verts. And I'm just going to go to the actual arm, and I'm going to snap it to where it's in the middle of the eyeball at least. Same thing with the eye left. Hold down V, snap it to where I think it's in the middle of the pupils. Now our joints should be at least aligned within the middle of his head. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and we got the jaw, the eyes, the head done. And still have the arms, and we still have our tail. So let's say if I wanted to use joints for the cloth, I could, but I'm not going to. Let's say we added joints or bones that we don't need. Well, the best thing I can suggest about doing that is we're going to go ahead. We will save out our template. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and we'll go back one step. And to do that, we can go down to skeleton creation. We don't need to worry about our physique. So we're going to hit continue, because that's going to be our settings for what the proxy geometry was doing. And we don't need those, we don't need that chain anymore, or we don't need whatever bones we don't need. So we go ahead and select that in the added modules, go ahead and delete that. I'm going to save out this template again. Oops, one more time. Listen to that ping noise. Alright, I want to go back to our skeleton placement. Guess I want to build it with what we just changed. So now if we come back in, it's still saved out our pose that we worked on so far. We push F to frame it. So now if we come into, select those spines so I can get a better frame. Here we go. So if we turn around, those joints are now gone. But none of the joints we had placed originally are affected. So we can turn off that physique. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to move the arms and the fingers into position where they need to go. So when we come back in the next video, this stage will be finished, and then we're going to move on to the next part of getting the skinning done for this character.